everybody, it's Amy Rich with amyrich.net here with the 4th in the 12 projects of Christmas 2022. We are looking at the July to December 2022 mini catalog, which I lovingly call JD22 mini catalog. And I'm going to show you a couple things that we're going to use today before we get started. First of all, the Trees for Sale stamp set. I love the stamp set. Back during Celebration, we had the awesome tree lot dies. I don't know that I'll ever get rid of mine because they're so amazing. So this is life beyond tree lot dies. So I'm going to show you a project today, a card today that we can make without that. But then I also used in the project this whimsical woodland 3D embossing folder. Now, admittedly, we won't see much of it, but at least you get to see a peek before I put it together a little bit better. And then just the outline of around the outside edge of my card will show on that, but it's really super cute. So I wanted to show it to you. And then the other thing we're going to just talk a little bit about tonight is the Pearlized Enamel Effects Basics. And these are 3 colors of paint, basically, that we can use in a few different ways. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to use those as we go. So first of all, we've got our cute embossing folder. Look at that. I've embossed it on 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 basic white cardstock. And then I'm bringing in my card base, which is 4 1/4 by 11, and it's actually going to open this way. And I don't know that we do that very often, but we're doing it today. And I might suggest when we adhere this on now that we use liquid glue. And the reason for that, I don't often do that on a large piece like this. But the reason for that is I cut it the same size as the actual front of the card base. So I want to be able to shift it and move it so it lines up. And that's a perfect fit. So now I can rub it to make sure it adheres. And that is just so that we don't have to run the actual card base through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine with the embossing folder. So it just makes it a little bit easier when we just do the one layer and we don't have to try to get it only on the front and all of that good stuff. So that was an easy way to do it. Then we're going to grab our piece of 4 1/2 by 3 1/4 basic white cardstock, and then also a piece that is 1 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. And I'm just going to put a tiny dab of glue or adhesive on there. And then I'm just going to line this up about the 1 inch mark on that cardstock, and I want it kind of centered from top to bottom as well. So let me just get this into place so I can get it about even. So I'm using my grid paper as a guide for where to put this. And then I'll just rub that adhesive a little bit so that it's good to go. Then we're going to do some stamping on here with our tree lot or Trees for Sale stamp set. I almost said tree lot dies because I love them so much. We are going to use a couple of bright greens, pretty Parakeet Party, and I almost said Pretty Peacock. Parakeet Party and Granny Apple Green for our trees. And then we're going to add a dog with a little crumb cake ink. So let's start with the dog. Okay, we're going to ink up the dog in crumb cake. And then we're going to stamp about halfway between the 2 pieces of cardstock like that. I know it kind of looks funny, but it'll make sense in a little bit. Another stamp that I really like in here are the puppy paws. We're not going to add those today, but that is a fun addition to the stamp set that I wanted to point out. Then we're going to stamp our trees in Parakeet Party ink. Now we're going to use the most solid images here for our trees to start with. I'm going to start with the largest one. And I'm going to get that mostly on our strip of white. And I really wanted that to show up over there too. So let me see if I can line that up again and get some pressure on that left-hand side to get that inked. There we go. Then we'll stamp it again, maybe down here, and maybe one more time over here. Then we'll go to the medium one, and we can overlap. And then with the small one, we can fill in a lot of space. Making sure when we stamp on that, over that edge, that we get a nice image. And it's okay that it's a little bit white here because we're gonna cover that up. But as much as we can, we wanna get that stamped over here. Then we'll go in with the Granny Apple Green and we'll give those trees some life. So the Granny Apple Green will be just a little bit darker, so you can see a little detail to those trees. And each size has those outlines, so we can go in each one and add the detail. It looks like a real tree lot, doesn't it? I think so. I'm going to leave that Granny Apple Green out for a second because I'm going to use the Stitched Rectangles dies, and this is the second smallest one, and I'm going to stamp the Christmas greetings from the Trees for Sale stamp set right across this rectangle like that. And then I think we're done with the stamping. So this is a really unique card in that they've been really fancy lately for the 12 Projects of Christmas, and I've toned it down a little bit. But we're gonna grab some Parakeet Party and Granny Apple Green cardstock. So now that we have that all stamped, we can take this off, this strip. And it's okay if you have a little adhesive stuck on there yet, or even a little bit of the paper. If it rips a little, it's not going to be a big deal because we're going to cover that up. So now we're going to adhere it to a piece that is 1 1/4 by 4 1/4, or 1 1/2 by 4 1/4 rather, just like this. So now we see our half a dog, and we'll add that to this in just a little bit, because first we're going to add this to our Parakeet Party. So this was 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, the white one. And now we're going to add it to a piece of Parakeet Party that is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. All right, then we'll add that to the front of our card. And now you'll see what I mean when I said we're not going to actually see much of those cute little trees because we're going to cover most of that up. Kind of sad, but it's cool to see that detail yet around the edges in the background. And then we're going to add this right into place, and that extra layer of Granny Apple Green helps to cover up those white edges that we weren't sure stamped very well. So just get your images lined up so you can see our dog. That's super cute with the trees there. And then we're going to add our greeting right over here, and we're going to pop that up with Stampin' Dimensionals. We'll slide it right where I showed you over here so that it covers that whole section. And that's really cute as it is. However, we are going to bring in those Pearlized Enamel Effects Basics. It's got kind of a mouthful of a name. It comes in black, which is actually almost like a gunmetal gray, and then a shimmery, a pearlized white, and a red. And I just want to show you what I've done. A couple of nights ago, I used my silicone crafting sheet to put some of the paint on and make our own little dots for decoration on our projects. Now, I did the larger ones a couple of nights ago and just let them dry. It didn't need 48 hours, but I would say a good 24 hours makes sure that the centers are all the way dry. And then tonight I just went back and I tried to make some smaller ones. So all you do is take your paint bottle and you squeeze, and I like to hold my paint bottle straight up and down. I almost can't talk while I do it. Can you tell? And then sometimes when the paint releases, it makes a little peak, and you can tap your silicone crafting sheet down and it kind of evens it out a little. And you see I also made this cool design. So once you leave it for a certain amount of time, then you're able to peel them off of here and have these cool decorations ready to go at your fingertips. So you may say, why would you do that 2 nights ago and not just add them to your project now? Well, part of that is because sometimes we don't have a whole lot of time to let something dry. So if you have some in reserves, then you will be able to come back to it and use it without having to let it dry in a short amount of time. So then what I did was I peeled the ones that were dry, or some of the ones that were dry, off, and I put them in one of these containers that I had left from another embellishment. And so you can see now that I've got some in reserve to use whenever it is that I want to use them. And I think those are super cute. Now keep in mind that the white ones can also be colored with our Stampin' blends. So if we wanted to create Granny Apple Green ones, like would match here, then we can just take the marker and color, and then we've got a Granny Apple Green one. Now make sure it's dry when you color it, because these probably aren't dry yet. And you'll also note that those small ones will take less time to dry, of course, because there's not as much paint. So now what you can do is just pick that off and it's ready to adhere to your project. So my intention for these today is to decorate this large tree here just with some ornaments. And so I am just going to use the white ones that I have in this container ready to go, and then maybe a couple others from here. I think this is my first one and it got kind of crazy. So I would just suggest practicing a little bit first before you're going for it. But you can see now this one is going to be really cute when it dries, and I can peel it off and use it somewhere on a project. So it's kind of fun to play around with those. You can also, if you put this, say you put some of this in the tray, you can also paint with that. So if you had a paintbrush, you could paint with this or the other colors, and you could add ink refill to this too. Once you get it on here, you can add ink refill and mix it up with a toothpick and have paint, pearlized paint, in any color you want. So there are just a lot of options here with these paints, and I think they've been a lot of fun to play with, at least for me. So what I'm going to do now to get these, now these aren't sticky, so I'm going to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pearlized white dots are kind of what I have here waiting to be used. So I'm just going to add my glue, and these are going to be my ornaments on just one tree, and I think that'll be super cute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, Hopefully I can work fast enough. I still have not found my take your pick tool, so I'm gonna have to use my fat fingers. We'll see how this goes. Maybe not so well. We'll see. And now we've got cute ornaments on that tree. We could certainly add black or red ones as well, but I just wanted to do a quick and easy ornament one with some white dots. I think it'd be really cute to add a little tree topper on here just to set that tree off. I'm gonna grab the snowflakes. And then a Daffodil Delight marker. I'm just gonna ink up the one snowflake right here on the end. And then we'll stamp that right at the top. Sweet little tree topper there, so cute. So thanks for joining me for project number 4. A little bit more laid back and whimsical than the ones that we've done recently. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you've got this stamp set, here's another version without those tree lot dies. So thank you for joining me. I look forward to sharing project number 5 soon.